I quit my 9 to 5 with no backup plan, become a millionaire, and here's how.
I started working in a factory at 16, then in nightclubs, then recruitment, then eventually landed a pretty high-paying sales job and worked my way up to become managing director of a boring education technology company. Being from where I'm from, that was massive success. But in reality, I was burnt out, I was tired, I wanted so much more. And it was actually when I met my now wife, I recognized that I needed to make a change and go to the next level. And it's really interesting looking back on that, because I didn't even realize it was that at the time. But now, in the beauty of hindsight, I think there was just such a necessity for me to change, which allowed me to build and live the life that I truly want to live. I had a really massive realization. It was COVID, and I went back up to Newcastle, spent some time with the family. I caught up with a friend of mine who actually had started his own business. He's a few years older than me. He'd always been a bit of a mentor. And we played chess late, and I ended up sleeping to his, woke up in the morning. I was on conference calls from 7 a.m. and he strolled down at 9:30, put the coffee machine on, and he looked at me. He was like, "Oh, what have you been doing?" I was like, "Oh, I've been on calls for the last 3 hours." And he laughed. He was like, "Oh yeah, I remember when I used to have to do that." What I realized is there was kind of an uncomfortable truth that I had to own up to. I built a life that I really loved. I didn't want to go down from there, but I wasn't getting the upside of what I truly wanted. But why do people stay stuck in a job they don't want to be in when they want to set up their own business? It comes down to these 3 horsemen. It's high perceived risk, not having enough time, or not having the skills, experience, and just not being good enough. And truthfully, these were the things that held me back from starting earlier as well. These are no longer valid excuses in this world of innovative technology. That's just a fear talking to actually prevent you from getting to where you want to get to. Because if you look at business in its really basic form, you need to get paid at the end of the month. If you have a full-time job, that's basically one client paying you. Whereas if you have a business, even if you have a really small business, you might have 5 clients paying you. So if you have a job and 1 client stops paying you, your payment stops. But if you have a business and 1 client stops paying you, you still have 4 clients paying you. So it's not actually a higher risk than having a job. In a lot of businesses, my first business, the first contract I signed was an 18-month contract. So I had 18 months of more or less guaranteed income coming in that I could bank on. Whereas most jobs, they don't even give you that security. There's no such thing as a job for life anymore. Pensions are being screwed, 300 million jobs are being replaced because of AI. Truthfully, you just need to take control of your own life yourself and build a vehicle that can keep producing free cash flow. And the easiest way to do that is to have your own business. If 1 client is paying me to do this job now, why wouldn't another client do that, another client do that? Even if you were to just replicate some of the work that you're doing for similar people within the industry, it doesn't have to be this massive big conglomerate to start with, and you don't need all this startup capital. If you just deliver simple services to what you're already doing, you can break through that. And for me, I was pretty good at business development. I wasn't good at content creation or marketing or anything like that. I was good at sales. I was good at communicating with people. So then when I set up my business, I was just like, oh, I'm going to help other businesses with business development. And as I started to do that, I recognized, oh, well, actually, I need to learn more marketing skills for me to really grow this business. And I started learning more marketing skills. I started making hires because I was making more money. So actually, by setting up the business, I created a lower risk, because even though I was high up in that business, if that business wanted to get rid of me, if it got bought out, but if I own my own business, I still got 4 businesses paying me. And that's the thing. I think the biggest error that you can make is thinking you need everything together from the start, where actually you just need to figure out who's going to pay me for the work and how can I simply replicate this in the best way possible. And if you do that again and again and again, before long, you're just going to have a business that pays you. So it's not about having everything together and knowing absolutely everything from day one. It's just having the initiative and the insight to just get started. This whole "I don't have enough time" excuse is a fallacy. I can evidence this in 2 ways. Number 1, Elon Musk running multiple billion-dollar businesses and having 11 kids. Okay, well, we might not be Elon, but how does he manage to do it? He does it because when he's working in one of those businesses, he just focuses on the major area to drive the business forward. Either the biggest problem, the biggest unblock, the biggest thing that's going to take the business to the next level. This is when most people make the mistake, is they think that they need 8 hours a day to build the perfect website, to have the perfect business structure, to have the perfect tax structure, where actually all you need to figure out how to do at the start is to make cash. because then you can pay for the rest. Let's say, for example, you work for 50 years, which most people now are going to have to work for longer. But even if you work for 50 years and say for the next 2 months, you're going to have to feel like you're working double time. You got to work your 9 to 5 and you've got to work to do a bit of your business setup by yourself for the next 2 months. 1/3 of a percentage of your time, you're going to have to do double work. That is so tiny in comparison to your lifespan. If you're talking about sacrifice, to have something that'll give you true freedom for the rest of your life. The main point here is once I started to think, how can I do it? What are my options? What options out there? Rather than feeling stuck in terms of this is what it is, it shows you that it's actually not about you don't have enough time. So the reason why you don't feel like you have enough time is because one, you're wasting time, but then you don't have the energy because you're doing shit that you don't like every day. So business is where you're going to make your wealth. It's not going to be working the 9 to 5 for most people. The third and final horseman is the fear of not being good enough, not having enough skills yet, not really being ready. Fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. And once you step into it, you realize that you're not going to drown, right? But where's this fear come from? It's a protection mechanism, and it is a fear of economic insecurity, which basically means it's the fear of going broke or not being good enough. If you're on that journey, you don't need to have it all worked out. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have the skill set, because if you keep taking the right action, over time you're going to get closer and closer to that goal, versus the person who just doesn't take the action at all. Over time, they're just going to be at the same spot, but even if you get a few things wrong, you're going to be much closer to the goal. You're seeing a lot of BS out there in the market now, saying you must have a personal brand, you've got to build your personal brand to get rich, right? That's complete BS. I built an 8-figure business before we started even touching on our personal brand. If you don't have anything valuable to talk about, start with just focusing on one small niche. So it's very easy for you to be an industry leader within that one space after just doing a little bit of research, because not many people are trying to do it. But if you're trying to become an expert, for example, in personal branding or business acquisition, and compete against people who have so much skills and experience, it's going to be very hard for you because you just haven't done the reps. You haven't got the experience in doing it yet. And as Warren Buffett always says, it's not about how hard you row, it's the boat that you're in. So make sure you get in the right boat for this next chapter of the journey. But before I log off, I want to share with you the one thing that's been game changer for me, and probably the most important thing in my life. And it's not knowledge, it's not books, but it is mentors. Throughout each stage of my journey, especially when I've been progressing, I've either had a mentor that's been close to me, who I've either worked for, or when I've made my most progress is probably a paid mentor. And you do have to let go of the ego. You do have to make yourself, people say vulnerable, but I think it's honest, right? You have to be honest about where you are, where you want to be, and the things that are blocking you from getting there, and the things that are maybe preventing you from getting to being the person who you know you can become and build the life that you want to live. And it's always down to me doing the work, but having someone that's been there, done that, who can say, don't worry about this, focus on this, stop doing that, and just really ask those probing questions with the awareness and hindsight of them having more experience, more success, and more understanding of the world. Hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next one. Much love.